And today our training is around requirement documents, in particular old requirement documents, right? But if I back up for 1 second, federal sales is in 3 phases. The way I like to describe federal sales, you have business development or BD, you have capture, and you have proposal or proposal writing. So those 3 phases. In capture, it's about one particular opportunity, and it includes learning everything you can about the current contract you want to win, right? If it's a recompete. So if you don't know this, contracts come out basically as a recompete or a brand new requirement the government has never paid for before, right? So recompete is every 5 years or every 3 years, they're recompeting it. And those are great chances to go after opportunities. And so that means you're studying the previous acquisition if you want to go after that recompete. You want to understand it completely. The previous one, how did they, what was the acquisition approach? How did they talk to industry? How much of industry responded? But a big portion of it is you want to understand the RFP, the request for proposal, and the requirement documents. Sometimes it's a PWS, or it's a performance work statement, or an SOW, a SOW, which is a statement of work, or a SOO, which is a statement of objectives, SOO. You want to understand those requirements, but that means you have to find them. And sometimes it feels like you just can't find it. It feels like you have to be the incumbent, and that's the only person that gets to look at the old documentation, which is just crazy because that information is public information. It's available. It's just hard to get. I get it. Sometimes it is a little difficult, but other times you're just not even trying. But if you try, you're going to be able to find some stuff. And so this makes capture hard if you're not able to find those documents. But if you're able to, you put yourself at a much better advantage than your competitors, and certainly a much better advantage than you would be if you didn't find those documents. And that's what we're going to be driving down into today. I did want to say that for this activity we're going to talk about, finding requirement documents on current contracts, billion-dollar companies have the same challenge. Right? Billion-dollar companies, we sometimes think they're just so too big to fail, too big to make any mistakes. They make mistakes, right? And they also have similar challenges. Now, they just have more resources than we do to be able to drive towards something, more money, more people. But sometimes even for them, it's a little hard. And think about a billion-dollar company is just people, just like you and me, right? We're a smaller company size, but you still have John or Jane doing the research. And so these challenges, really, you can turn them into skill sets when you think about it as something you want to practice and get good at, right? And here's how I find these requirement documents, PWS, SOWs, for awarded contracts I wish I won. This is how I find those contracts. And just some tips, right? It's not a be-all, end-all of the training. You want to get good at this skill. But I'm going to break today's training into 3 sections. First thing I want to do is just really reinforce why it's important to find these old requirement documents and how they're important to your capture activity. Capture is about shaping an opportunity and your solution, your approach, in the best way possible to win. Second thing I'm going to talk about is where to find old requirement documents. And so I'm going to basically give you a basic and advanced. So the second bullet here, I'm going to give you some basic tips on where to find the documents. And then the third bullet, what to do if you can't find these old requirement documents. Let's call this advanced. And this is the stuff most people don't do because they just give up. Or maybe they claim they don't know how. Well, I can't help you with the giving up part, but I can definitely help you with the how. And that's what I'm going to wrap up on this training. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonough. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, co-founder of GovCon in a Box. And I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I want for you. It's why I do this training. And it's what you can have when it relates to finding those requirement documents. If you understand the process and practice that skill set, you will have repeatable, predictable results in that capture activity. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to Government Contracting Success Newsletter. This is our newsletter where we share tips on succeeding in the federal market. We share information about the federal agencies, where to register, what are their biggest challenges and pain points, what they're trying to do. We share a lot of good information in there, so make sure you're subscribed to that newsletter. The other thing on this page I want to point your attention to is on the right-hand side, the next training tomorrow, that'd be the 18th, I guess, of September, I'm going to be talking about capability statements and really going back to the basics of capability statements, why and the purpose of capability statements, what a capability statement should look like, and where that statement should live in order to maximize your chances of being seen by federal buyers and teammates. I also wanted to thank those of you who registered for training. We had over 100 people register for training today, so I appreciate when you register for training. You're letting us know you're coming live or you're watching the replays. So congratulations to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people since the last time I mentioned this, who are now 7 companies who are now in the 100 club. If you go to govconinAbox.com, you can check out your company's federal visibility score. This is how visible are you to federal buyers. The score is 0 to 100, right? And these 65 companies are in the 100 club out of 360,000 small businesses who sell to the federal government. 65 of them are in the 100 club. I would love for you to be in the 100 club. Go to govconinAbox.com. It's free. You can check out your score. You can see why you're not at 100 and a little video that I put in for each one of the steps you might have to do in the federal government sites to get yourself to 100. So congratulations to Project Swami Consulting, Y-Point Solutions. I need to figure out, David, how to pronounce this. Is it 𝗙𝗏? Let me know, because I want to learn how to pronounce the company name. Keith Swanson's been with us. I think, Keith, you might have been with us since 2018, since I first started doing this. But Swan Management Group hit 100. Veterans Professional Services, South Jersey Heat and Cool. And then Aries, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, Systems Consulting. Congratulations, all of you doing what it takes to become visible, right? That's just the first step. It's not, boom, now you're getting sales because you're at the 100 club. It means you're starting to think about what do federal buyers need in order to see you. All right, let's dive into the meat of today's first topic, which is why old requirement documents are important. So I don't have them in too much of particular order, but the first reason I'm saying that requirement documents are important is when you read the requirement documents, you're able to start learning the language of the government. I like to say, learn how they talk about what you sell, not how you talk about it. An example might be digital modernization or digital transformation, right? The government calls it one thing. You might call it the opposite. Both of them are pretty much the same thing, modernization and transformation. And it doesn't really matter. You want to change your language or just modify how you speak about what you sell into their language. And when you have these requirement documents, you not only see digital modernization, but then maybe the way they break down the task areas that relate to digital modernization. The second bullet, understanding the scope of work, kind of goes with what I just said, right? If you look at old requirement documents, you're getting an early head start on understanding the task areas that are in there. So if I'm looking at a recompete and I'm looking at an old requirement document, I can see that they broke the task areas down into 7 or 12 different task areas, and I can understand where they're going. This is really important to me, right? And I can align it to the deliverables that are in that document. But the reason I like the task areas, first off, it helps me get a head start on talking about the solution, right? Whether I'm a 1-person shop or a 10-person shop, doesn't matter. If I go to the whiteboard and I start trying to map out the scope and how I would address it as an expert in my field, then understanding the way they defined the requirements last time will give me a leg up on the new requirement when it drops. But it also helps me in Capture to be able to take those task areas and deliverables back in a set of Capture questions. When I do sales, and Capture is sales, right? When I do sales and go into sales meetings, I want to be asking questions. So an example is, I might ask about the task areas. Last time you guys had 10 task areas, but I noticed this one was surge, let's just say, and you were trying to reach for these. Were you able to get to that? How did it go? I noticed last time you had this task area because you were trying to address this particular challenge or pain point. Were you guys ever able to get to that satisfactory, or is that still something that you see us several years out? Whatever it is, understanding the scope of work that they've been trying to do for the last 3 to 5 years will enable you to ask questions about, well, where do you want to go forward? And that also goes to bullet 3, right? Learn what they were trying to address and did they. the fourth bullet here, write a draft proposal to start thinking about your solutioning and your response early. I never understand when somebody wants to go after, a company wants to go after an opportunity and they know about it pretty far in advance. They wait till the RFP drops to write something. My last company, I used to write the RFPs long before, right? When I heard about the opportunity, I started thinking about what I was writing. When I went after RFIs, and this is a big difference between me and I think other people, is that I write RFIs for the win. When I respond to an RFI, I put the energy into it as if it's an RFP and I want to win it. It doesn't matter to me whether I win it or not. That time is not wasted because I only respond to RFIs or sources sought, right? When the government is looking to learn about industry, I only respond for opportunities that are in my sweet spot, that I am the expert on. So if I'm writing to win, I'm not wasting my time. First, I'm giving them a really good understanding of how great we are. Second, I have more reusable material. I've refined my material. And so you can do that same thing, but you're also getting an understanding of how do I get past the basics of a proposal and really start getting to the turning this into what I call a winning proposal. The fifth bullet, learn which offices buy. And so in this particular case, I might go into previous documentation, and I'll show you today's example is a perfect one. If I'm looking for Adobe Experience Manager, that's a type of a work, right? And so it's just like janitorial services. This is Adobe Experience Manager. If you're not an expert in it, don't worry about it. But if I'm looking for that and I find old requirement documents based on some opportunities I see I want to win, when I'm looking at it, I can begin to see maybe which offices within this agency are buying the Adobe Experience Manager type work. It allows me to then go, okay, well, what kind of offices are like that in another agency? I can come over to another agency, maybe the small business professional, and say, hey, over here, it tends to be Office ABC that is really most focused on Adobe Experience Manager. What do you have that's similar over here? Or if I read their documentation, the VA has this, 1,500 page document about the organizational structure down to the lowest offices. If I care about making millions of dollars, I'm going to read 1,000 pages the VA put out to find an office that is similar in responsibility to the one that awarded a contract at another agency that I liked and I wish I had more of. So learning which offices to buy is something you can get out of that scope or PWS, because it really begins in the background and why they have this requirement that they need. Understanding that allows you to look to other places. And similarly, that was about the offices that you could find. The last bullet is when you find these requirement documents, it gives you a lot of insight on how to search for more contracts on FPDS or USA Spending or SAM that are similar to this. So an example is if I find an old requirement document, I might be only looking for Adobe Experience Manager. But if I look down maybe into the task areas, I can see what they want Adobe Experience Manager for is this, this, and this. I'm like, oh, well, let me try searching for these things, because maybe these things, which are the task areas of Adobe Experience Manager, maybe over here, they're not even thinking about Adobe yet, but they still have the same problems or same needs. And so if I search on those and I find those type of requirements or task areas, then I can go in and say, well, are you familiar with Adobe Experience Manager? No, we're not. Neil, tell us about it so we can buy two from you. Maybe it's not that easy, right? But so these are just some of the reasons on why it's important for you to get those requirement documents. Most importantly, and I didn't even put this here, most importantly, if you can get these old requirement documents early, you can review the scope and abandon an opportunity faster. Like you can look at it and go, oh my gosh, the title and the brief description made me think it was this, but now reading the scope, it is just way over here. That's not us. It's like, all right, cool. Right? On the flip side, you can decide to keep it too, but having something in writing that is the scope, whether it's the new scope or the old scope, either one of them will help you make that bid, no bid decision before you're investing a lot more time into things. Okay, so the second thing I want to talk about, and this is show and tell, so hence the reason the slide is pretty bare, but where can you find old requirement documents? In this particular case, I'm not talking about any of the subscription services, because most of the subscription services are just pulling their data from SAM, right? And FPDS and some other places, but there are no documents in FPDS, USA Spending, et cetera. So really, they're pulling it out of SAM. You could also perhaps try to look into contract vehicles in those portals, but even those are really poor in communicating back, like GSA eBuy. Good luck ever finding an old document in there. We could talk about that in another training. But the two places you want to look, sam.gov and Google. So I always go to SAM first if I know an opportunity ID, or if I'm trying to search on just keywords. I'll go to SAM, and I'll show you in a second what I do. If I can't find that, then I go to Google and I search for something, and I type in file type PDF. I'm not going to show that to you today. You can just Google how to do that, but search your term or search your opportunity ID and see what Google pulls up. Oftentimes you might see a subscription service tell you, hey, here it is, like, GovWin, GovTribe, the higher Gov, or this Gov and that Gov, whatever Gov's out there. All right, let's go check it, how to do this. By the way, just a reminder, go get your visibility score. Go to GovCon in a box. Right here, number 2, get your visibility score. If you just come in here and type in, and Graham's the lucky company I'm remembering today. If you type in your company and hit search there, it comes up and it shows you, that's not them. Shows you a bunch. There it is, Graham here. So if I click on it, I can see my score. This is not me, this is them. But of course, I'm going to pull up a 100. I'm able to see the visibility score, the contract vehicles, the people that are in there, the wins. So you can see all this information. But if you click on this visibility score, I won't do it at the moment because there are 100 and it's their information. You can find tips on how to move forward. But just check that out on GovCon in a box. Okay, so sam.gov. How do you find requirement documents out here? The search is fairly straightforward, and I wanted to speed it up, so I just have it all ready for you today. But you begin by going to SAM and choosing, let me come right here, search tab, and then right below that, you have select your domain, and so you want to select contract opportunities. That way you're not searching all the information they have out there. Then you want to put in either, like right here, an ID number. For me, I chose Adobe Experience as an exact phrase. And then coming down further, I said the notice types I want are solicitations or combined synopsis solicitations. That's another training to talk about it. And then the other thing is I wanted to find inactive. So I just left active and inactive at the moment. So that's my filter. Didn't get a lot, which is fine for the moment. But then I found these ones that are out here. The interesting thing is if you look at the 2 in the middle, those are software. I want to find services, which is number 1 and number 4, ironically. But software is okay, because if I find software maintenance or software licenses, I can just chase this down to the office that's buying this and go, well, who's running it? Who's installing it and using it? Could you introduce me? Right? It's not that hard to, it might be time consuming, but it's not that hard to get, follow a thread down from software to the services and who's doing it. You could do this with cleaning supplies. If somebody's buying some fancy toilet cleaner, well, you could follow that through to going, well, hey, KO, you just bought 1,000 crates of that, but who's cleaning the toilets? Can we talk to them? Can you introduce us? Or at least just tell us what office it is. This is basically what Adobe Experience Manager is in a very small nutshell. It's a content management system. So this is a good one for me to chase, but that's from 2014, so it's a little old. And this one's from 2022. It's Adobe Experience Manager Forms Specialized Support. That's pretty good. That's kind of what I'm looking for, because as a company, we want to be able to provide those services. So I click on it and I come in here and I'm able to see the same document. If I want, I can come down and get a lot more information around it, right? I can just confirm right here on who's doing some of the work. Remember, I told you can learn a little bit about it, but an interesting thing is I know NASA, so I'll just tell you that I'm looking at this in a space flight. One of my questions is going to be, hey, are you doing this for all of NASA centers, or is each center going to be kind of buying its own? Because if they are, even though I only saw 4 opportunities, whoever's got this one might be able to introduce me to their peers in the other NASA centers. And there's like, let's say there's 10 of them or something. And so I'm going to look at the details. I love the fact that it's remote. And right down here at the bottom, I'm able to see the pricing exhibit. So I can go in there and look, are you doing labor categories, et cetera? And I can look at the PDF. I'm not looking at pricing today, but I am looking at the PWF. So if I come in here, so you can see, let me come in really quick. This is a request for quotation for specialized support for Adobe. I can see some information that's in here. I can begin to see those offices I was talking about. If I'm looking at NASA, I might take that office and go, well, do they have it in every center? So I'm going to bounce around like that. And then let me back up. Let me make sure this, whoa, wait one. Okay, so I got it on one page. I want to do this with you so that you see how I browse. Sometimes people are opposed to browsing. I like browsing to just see. I know I'm going fast while I'm doing this, but it is helping me see. And I've gotten good at seeing the bold lines there, but I can see stuff. I'm looking through, I'm like, okay, I got it. These are a bunch of clauses. Oh, I just got down here, right? I could have searched, by the way, for performance work statement, but ironically, I did try to do a search on scope, couldn't find it. I tried to do a search on task area. I'm like, forget it. I'm just going to page down, right? And it took me, what was that, 10 seconds to find it. So now I'm in here, right? And I'm looking at this old document, and I'm able to begin to look at some of the information that's in here. What are they looking at? Expertise to complete these tasks shall include server architecture. I thought I was just doing forms. It's like, okay, I need to make sure I'm thinking about the server side of AEM forms, right? If I'm not totally familiar, I need to go brush up on that. Maybe I'm looking for teams, team members, et cetera. And so you can see some of the language there. Here now they go into phase one and some of the work they're looking to be done. Here it looks like they're looking for you to do the installation. So this is similar to what I used to do in SharePoint. Ticket responses. So they've got people who are using this and you're supporting them. I'm seeing that, right? Here, based on discovery phase, they're looking for recommendations, support the execution. So basically, they just want to make sure it's running. So phase one is analyze it. Phase two is making sure it's running. Phase three is upgrading to the next version. And so here they talk about some of the, right here, look at that. Must provide proof of Adobe Gold Partner. What if I waited all the way until the new requirement documents were coming out, right? That could be a huge, huge deal to me. I can't highlight that, sorry, but well, maybe I do this here because this is really important. Well, whatever, I can't edit it. But you can see that second bullet on award criteria says you must have proof of Gold Partner. Just really quick, capture is about learning that, going and getting yourself on a Gold partnership, or going back to the government and saying, look, that's just licensing. That is not really executing. We'd like to recommend you get rid of that. Did that really help you last time? Right? Whatever it is. But now, at least because I looked at the old requirement documents, I learned about this potential pitfall early, and I can do something about it. I can become a Gold partner, or I can try to push it out of their mind as anything of valuable. And then, so down here, so down here, I'm just getting the deliverables. I can look at them all. I can go, okay, they're all pretty basic, etc. All right, let me come back here really quick to the last slide here. So what do you do if you can't find the old requirements? I'm a little tight on time. So if you ever watched, I think the movie was called, the TV show was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something. And you would have to answer these questions. But along the way, if you had a challenge, you had one card or something where you could phone a friend and get their advice. And people almost always call the wrong friend. But in this case, I'm giving you some friends that you can call to get it. So if I can't find the document I just showed you on SAM, then I'm going to go to the, I'm obviously going to find in FPDS the awarded contract that I like, that I want to pursue. And usually in FPDS, I can get the contracting officer's name. So I can find that information fairly straightforward. So I'm going to call the KO or the CO. In the military, we call them KOs and COs in the civilian side. CO is commanding officer in DOD. That's why we did that whole thing. But I call the contracting officer, or I call the contracting officer representative, the person who makes sure the contract is running well through the life of the contract. Or at the agency, I call a small business professional. So I try to enlist the help of these people I call like acquisition level people. And then I tried to get into the program office, right? On SAM, I was able to see which program office, but I can see that in USA Spending and FPDS as well. I can see which office is using it, and or I can begin to dig around and figure it out. But then I try to slide into that program office. I go to LinkedIn. I try to find 10 or 20 people in there. I would call the incumbent directly, and I would try to call them early. It's like, especially if they can't compete, but maybe I build a relationship. Say, hey, can you send that to me? We're trying to go after work over here. We'd love to look at that. So don't write off the incumbent. And then SBA PCRs, The SBA has procurement center representatives, business opportunity specialists, and district office personnel. All of these people might help you be able to reach out to that agency to ask for a copy of the old performance work statement. There is no sensitivity around that information. And the last group of people you might be able to reach out to are Apex accelerators. I know in Oklahoma, as an example, that Apex accelerator is tied tightly with Tinker Air Force Base, which is out there. And so if you happen to be trying to go after Tinker, these guys would be great. But at the very least, you could call your own local one and see if they might be able to assist you reaching a remote agency. Okay, so here's what I want you to remember from today's training as we're wrapping up. First off, capture requires that you get the demands that you get the requirement documents, right? I put capture 101, but fundamentals of capture begin with getting that requirement document. Why are you even pursuing an opportunity? You don't know the scope, right? So that's number one thing you really want to get done. The second thing is just do a quick Google and SAM search. If you can't find it, then begin to reach out to those people I just mentioned. And you should be able to, in a week or two, find the documentation. It might take you a little longer to get it, right? There's other advanced ways to go after it, but you should expect to be able to get it. If you can't get old requirement documents, abandon the opportunity, because the chances are your competitors have it, but you don't. Hopefully that makes sense. If it does, put capture rocks into the chat. Just let me know you appreciated the training. Tomorrow is capability statement basics, so make sure you register for that training. Even if you think you know about capability statements, make sure the third bullet you're paying attention to, where I tell you where to put it. If you were doing over $2 million, not under $1 million, but if you're doing over $2 million and you're looking for some help accelerating your business, we have BD Accelerator Workshop. Love to talk to you about it. Just put workshop in the chat. We'll follow up when we get a moment. And then for all of us, as we head into the day, remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.